baseball.
Live from Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, it's Mets Baseball 89 as today the Mets take on the Pittsburgh Pirates. And Mets Baseball 89 is brought to you this afternoon by Anheuser-Busch. They brew their fine quality beers to be enjoyed responsibly. Remember, know when to say when. By Nissan, building cars for people who want more than just a means of getting from here to there. Nissan, built for the human race. By Manufacturers Hanover, the financial source worldwide. By The Wiz. Remember, for anything in home entertainment, nobody beats The Wiz. By Delta Airlines. They love to fly, and it shows. By the New York Daily News, New York's hometown paper. And by DHL Worldwide Express. Faster to more of the world. Pitching for the Mets this afternoon, it's Sid Fernandez, 13-5 with an ERA of 2.85. And on the mound for the Pirates, Bob Patterson, 4-2 with an ERA of 3.42.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Kiner, along with Steve Zabriskie and Tim McCarver. And the last day of the season, it's over for the New York Mets, but not for some of the other teams.
There are 26 teams in it now, but the playoffs beginning in Chicago in the National League. That'll be on Wednesday, the 4th and 5th. And then this Saturday, Sunday, next Monday if necessary, and then the following Wednesday and Thursday. And in the American League, two good matchups again, Ralph.
In the American League, of course, Toronto playing Oakland, and they start in Oakland on October 3rd. That's Tuesday. They'll play there the 3rd and 4th, then move to Toronto for the 6th, 7th, and 8th if necessary, and then at Oakland October 10th and the 11th if necessary. And the World Series will then come on October 14th and 15th, and that would be in the American League City, in the National League City on the 17th, 18th, and 19th, and back to the American League if necessary on the 21st and 22nd.
26 teams in it as we speak, but after today, only 4, and then after a week from Thursday at the latest, only 2 in the World Series beginning a week, actually a week from next Saturday.
And the Mets still fighting for second place in the National League East. They're tied by the St. Louis Cardinals, so a win here would mean a little money.
It's funny, the Pittsburgh Pirates and New York Mets expected to finish 1-2 in the National League East, and here the Cubs come out of nowhere and win big, and they deserve it. They have had a great year.
They wanted themselves. They actually played very well at the end. Nobody backed in, and a good win for the Cubs. And we'll be back with the start of this ball game with the Mets and the Pittsburgh Pirates, the final game of the year, right after this message from Anheuser-Busch. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, he has an earned run average of 3.42. This will be his 12th game of the year. He's worked 23 2/3 innings, giving up 20 hits, 2 home runs, 5 walks, and 19 strikeouts. Bob Patterson. And Bob will be pitching to Greg Jeffries as his first batter, and the ball game underway. First pitch hit foul back out of play. Jeffries hitting .258 for the year with 12 home runs, 55 RBIs. Greg with a fine second half of the year. He's hit 8 home runs in his last 22 games, and since June the 6th, he's hit .296. And again, a foul ball, so it's strike 2. Jeffries has raised his average from 182, the low point in his year, to 258, and he has come on to play a good second base for the New York Mets after never having played that position before. And the fastball for a ball. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
A lot of people talking back in June about sending Jeffries down. Certainly the Mets were tempted to do so, but they didn't, and he's performed well.
And he hits this ball to the third baseman, Jeff King. The throw over to first base to Bonilla, and 1 away. Bonilla and
following Jeffries in today's ball game, Keith Miller playing center and batting second. Howard Johnson hitting third. What a year Hojo has had. The MVP hands down for the Mets. Kevin McReynolds, Tim Tuffle, Mark Carrion. Then Phil Lombardi behind the plate hitting 7th. Kevin Elster and Sid Fernandez on the mound trying for victory number 14 today.
And Patterson now pitching to Keith Miller, playing center field in today's ball game. Miller hitting .232 for the year, 1 home run, 7 runs batted in. And he takes a fastball for ball 1. Miller has hit in 10 of his last 13 games since getting a chance to play on a regular basis. And he's batting .313 over that period. In the doubleheader Friday night, he had 5 hits and 11 at-bats, and the pitch is taken for a ball.
Finish that point, Ralph. Had Jeffries been sent down and not known how to struggle in the major leagues, then he approaches the 1990 season perhaps with much more trepidation than he will approach it after going through what he went through and then coming through in the second half and batting .300.
He not only had to fight himself, he had to fight some of his teammates to overcome the problem of that bad start.
And some of his ex-teammates most recently.
Roger McDowell, a high fly ball to center field for the out, so 2 men away. The Mets batting here in the top of the first inning. The defense for Pittsburgh: Bonilla at first base, Lean at second base, Bell at shortstop, and King at third. Bonds, Hatcher, and Reynolds in the outfield left to right. Bill Ardello the catcher. Bonilla and King switching positions here in the latter part of this year. An experiment for next year. McSherry behind home plate, Williams at first, Crawford at second, and West at third. The umpires in this game. And now Howard Johnson, and his first pitch a strike. Howard, as Tim pointed out, a brilliant year, hitting .283 for the year with 36 home runs, 101 runs batted in, 102 runs scored. And the curveball for a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Howard's lifetime average coming into this season, .251. So he has really added to that lifetime batting average with his .283 this year, but such a strong year in the power departments, and he hits this ball into left field. Bonds coming hard, can't get to it, short hops it, and a base hit for Howard Johnson. So the Mets have the first base runner.
Batting fourth and playing in left field, number 22, Kevin McReynolds.
That'll bring up Kevin McReynolds. McReynolds hitting .272 in the year with 21 home runs, 83 runs batted in. Kevin, a lifetime .270 batter with 7 professional years in the major leagues. Johnson is short lead at first base. The first pitch, a fastball fouled away. Kevin McReynolds hitting for the cycle earlier this year, and also hitting the only grand slam home run hit by a Mets batter this season. And a throw to first base. Bonilla taking the throw. Patterson with a lifetime record of 7 wins and 9 losses. At Buffalo this year, he was 12-6 in 31 games. He was the opening day pitcher against the Mets in 1988 right here at Three Rivers Stadium.
Only the 3rd Pirate rookie to start on opening day, but that shows you how humbling baseball can be. 3-year period. Bob Patterson sent back to the minors this year.
And the pitch to McReynolds, a fastball fouled off. The count at strike 2. When Patterson opened up that opening day 2 years ago, it was against Bob Ojeda, who became the first left-handed pitcher to open up a season for the New York Mets. All the others had been right-handed starters. And another throw to first base. Mets were in first place on June 25th. Since that time, they've won 47 and lost 43. Probably the turning point of the season was on August 20th when Willie Randolph hit that 3-run home run to beat the Mets in the 9th inning, and the pitch fouled away. Since that time, the Mets just struggled throughout the season, the rest of that season, including this ball game here. The Mets have won the first 3 games of the 4-game series, and they need a victory here today to even out the season series with the Pittsburgh Pirates at 9-9. 2 strikes to count. And another throw to first. Johnson with a short lead, 40 stolen bases. He's running on the pitch, but it's grounded to the third base side. Jeff King has it. Throw to first base for the out. So King playing a very good third base since his shift from first to third. Mets get a hit, leave one, and the score at the end of 1/2 inning. The Mets nothing. The Pirates coming up. And now here's a word from Nissan. Sid Fernandez on the mound for the Mets with a record of 13-5. He's 0-1 against the Pirates this year, an earned run average of 2.85. He's walked 70, struck out 191 batters, given up only 153 hits in 211 1/3 innings.
Barry Bonds leads it off for the Pirates, followed by shortstop Jay Bell, center fielder Billy Hatcher batting third, Bobby Bonilla, the first baseman, hitting fourth, J.R. Reynolds, the right fielder, hitting fifth, Jeff King at third, batting sixth, Jose Lean batting second, batting seventh and playing second, Dan Billardello, the catcher, hitting eighth, and Bob Patterson, the pitcher, batting ninth.
And for the Pirates, it'll be Barry Bonds to lead it off. And the first pitch swung on and fouled away. Bonds hitting .248 for the year with 19 home runs, 57 runs batted in. Bonds has had 19 leadoff home runs in his major league career, 3 of them this year. And he takes the curveball. And the count 1-1 strike. His daddy, Bobby Bonds, with 35 leadoff home runs. And at one time that was a major league record, but it has since been broken by Ricky Henderson. The 1-1 pitch, a fastball, a called strike, and it's 1-2. Bonds and his father have hit the most home runs of any father-son combination in baseball history.
Bonded, of course.
They're bonded together. Now the 1-2 pitch. And again the curve, and this one for ball 2. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Yogi Berra and his son Dale at one time had the most, and then they were tied by the Bell father and son combination, Gus Bell and his son.
The Killer Bees, the Bells, the Berras, and the Bonds.
I guess that's got to be it. You got to have a B for the initial that starts your last name. So the strikeout for the first out for Sid Fernandez. Sid will be backed up by Tuffle at first, Jeffries at second, Elster at short, Johnson at third, McReynolds, Miller, and Carrion in the outfield left to right, and the catcher is Lombardi. Sid with 191 strikeouts to start this ball game, at his third in the National League.
And he could end up leading the National League very easily. If he gets into double figures today, he trails Jose De Leon of the Cardinals by 9. De Leon struck out 5 in his game yesterday. And Tim Belcher by 9, actually 8 right now. Belcher with 200, De Leon with 201, and Sid with that strikeout of Bonds has 192.
And he gets a called strike there, 1-1. Fernandez earlier this year on July 4 struck out 16 in one ball game against Atlanta, the all-time high for this season in Major League Baseball. And it also set a Mets record for strikeouts by a left-handed pitcher dating back to 1962. And the fastball swung on and missed.
Sid with his second complete game last Tuesday, second complete game in a row. That's the second time this season that he has had 2 complete games in a row. In early June, 2 appearances, 2 complete games, and before this year he had not thrown 2 complete games in a row.
And he tries the fastball and misses, 2-2.
You mentioned Belcher. How about Belcher with 8 shutouts this year, Ralph?
Boy,
undergoing back surgery this week, or no, palm surgery. He is having some bone fragments taken out of his right palm, his pitching palm, through for the year.
And at 2-2, the pitch to Bell fouled away. Another department where Sid has a chance to be the leader in the National League and holding the opposing batters to the lowest batting average. He comes in holding hitters to a 199 average. De Leon is just ahead of him, holding hitters to a 197 batting average. Last year, Sid led the National League in holding the opposition to the lowest batting average. The 2-2 pitch Grounded right up the middle and a base hit for Jay Bell, who has really rung the bell here of late.
Batting in the third position and playing in.
What's that old line? Does the name Quasimodo ring a bell? Well, Jay certainly has done that for the Pirates. Bell could end up hitting around 260, obtained from the Pittsburgh or from the Cleveland Indians for Felix Fermin, and he's a good-looking player.
In his last 14 games, hitting .346. So he gets a base hit, and now the batter will be Billy Hatcher. Bell running with a pitch. The throw by Lombardi is high, and Bell has a stolen base.
I think that's the best way to beat Fernandez. You don't get on that often, but when you do, you have to do something unusual to beat him. Steal a base, do something unorthodox, because the one problem that Fernandez has had throughout his career is he does not face adversity real well. If you play an unusual game against him, you can beat him.
And that pitch for a ball, and it's 2 balls and no strikes to Hatcher.
If, on the other hand, you sit back and wait for the long ball or the key hit against Fernandez, you're not going to beat him.
68 and 45 in his major league career in the major leagues. And this ball is popped up. Greg Jeffries, the second baseman, making the call and catch. 2 men away as Bell holds at second. Sid Fernandez has pitched the lowest hit game for the Mets this year. He pitched a 2-hitter against St. Louis on September 21st.
And had a 3-hitter last time out. He's given up only 5 hits and 1 run his last 18 innings coming in. You know, Ralph, we talked about Tim Belcher and the surgery. Andres Hernandez had surgery, prostate surgery, on Thursday, and he's our home plate cameraman at Shea Stadium and has been with the Mets since 1962. He is recovering well and will be home from the hospital on Tuesday. And we understand Andres is looking forward to spring training already.
Spring training and opening day for the Mets will be right here in Pittsburgh on April the 3rd. Opening day in the new decade. Bobby Bonilla, the batter. He walked 4 times in the game yesterday and didn't score a run. Rather unusual situation. Pirates have not been hitting in this series. Bonilla has been hitting in his last 17 games. He's hit .431. And he takes the breaking ball, and it's 2 balls and no strikes. Yeah, a .277 lifetime batter. And this is his 4th year in the major leagues.
He's a good hitter, but he's not a good third baseman. He'll lead all major league third basemen in errors for the 2nd year in a row.
Consequently, he's been playing first base in the last few games of this season. He actually was an outfielder and moved to third. 3-0 the count to Bobby Bonilla. He's hit 66 career home runs in his 4 years in the major leagues, and he goes after the 3-0 pitch and pops it up. Tough play for Jeffries as he makes a call and does make the catch, and that will retire the side. So a base hit and a man left at second after the stolen base, and the score at the end of 1, the Mets nothing and the Pirates nothing. And here's a word from Etna. Back here at Three Rivers Stadium, the Mets against the Pirates in the final game of the year, and for the Mets here in the top of the 2nd of a 0-0 ball game, it'll be Tim Teufel to lead it off. Teufel hitting .251 for the year. He has 2 home runs, 14 runs batted in. Lifetime batting average of .265 after 6 years before this year. And Bob Patterson with a fastball for ball 1. Couple of batting races to be decided today, and Tim, it looks very interesting.
Well, it really does, and we had hoped to carry each at bat of Kirby Puckett, Carney Lansford in the American League, both batting .338, and then Will Clark a point ahead of Tony Gwynn in the National League.
Tuffle drills it down the left field line. If it's fair, it's extra bases, but it's a foul ball.
Clark batting .334 to Gwynn's .333 coming in, but all the games start late on the West Coast. San Francisco, San Diego game, and then Minnesota. Actually, we can keep up with Minnesota. Well, no, they play in Seattle. And then Carney Lansford, of course, plays in Oakland today. So all of the games are on the West Coast.
I guess we got to pull for an extra inning game so
yeah,
we can
right.
get that in.
And I know that's what you're pulling for today.
Absolutely.
Right.
Just what we need on getaway day. And the ground ball hit down to third. King, another good play at third. The throw to first base picked out of the dirt by Bonilla. And King showing that he can play third, at least in this series.
Batting six.
Ralph talked earlier about King moving to third and Bonilla at first. I think that's a better tandem than Bonilla at third and King at first. King played third base some in the minor leagues. You saw him cut in front of Bell and make a nice play.
And with one away, the batter will be Mark Carrion. Carrion hitting .302 for the year with 6 home runs, 16 runs batted in. In his last 7 games, he's had at least 1 base hit. And he takes high for ball 1. He's hit .480 in his last 7 games with 12 hits, 2 of them home runs and 6 RBIs. And of his 6 home runs, 4 have been as a pinch hitter, the most in the major leagues this year. And the curveball hit up the middle, and Carrion continues to carry on. Mets get their second base hit.
Carrion with this base hit almost cinches hitting over 300. Ralph, you were telling me an interesting story about you and Hank Sauer. When was it, 52, when you played the game?
1952. He and I were tied for the home run leadership at 37. As you look at Phil Lombardi batting for the New York Mets. And at the end of the game, I did not have a home run, and I didn't know whether Hank Sauer had or not. It would have marked the 7th year that I had led the league in home runs if he did not get a home run. We took the train back, as you look at the out made in the outfield as Lombardi is out, from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh, and I still couldn't find out. We made a mail stop, I guess, about midnight, and I went into the Western Union operator to find out if he could get any information as to whether or not Hank Sauer had hit a home run. And he did get it for me, and Hank did not hit one.
Hank playing for the Cubs that day, I guess, at Wrigley Field.
At Wrigley Field, and so we went back on the train, and we had a little celebration, a little champagne. The bubbly came out on me.
Came out in their glass, but it was billed to you.
Yeah, we didn't throw it around. We got it in.
Got it in the right spot.
Right spot for a change. So now 2 men away, and Kevin Elster the batter. Elster hitting .234 for the year, and he takes the first pitch for ball 1. Kevin with 10 home runs. That ties a Met record for a shortstop. Eddie Basu had 10 home runs back in 1966 for the Mets. And he has a record in RBIs at 55 for a Mets shortstop, the most by any Mets shortstop in their 28 years. And he takes a call, strike 1-1. Elster, after a very strange start, he got off to a pretty good start and then went into a horrendous slump and then was actually benched by Davey Johnson. Johnson looking for some offense. Elster said he could do it if he could play. He got back in the lineup and put his money where his mouth was and really did do a good job. Came back hitting very strongly. 1-2 the count. Elster last year hit .214 with 9 home runs and 37 RBIs. So he has career highs in home runs and runs batted in, and also in his batting average. Throw to first base. Carry on back. No score in the game. We're in the top of the 2nd inning with 2 men out. Bob Patterson, the pitcher for the Pirates. And the fastball popped up into shallow right field. Out there is Reynolds, and he makes the catch that retires the side. So a base hit and one left. The score at the end of 1.5 innings. The Mets nothing and the Pirates nothing. Now here's a word from Mobil Gasoline. Well, the last day of the year means a lot to a lot of ball players. Ted Williams hit 400 the last day of the season in a doubleheader, going 6 for 8. The last man to hit 400. Tim McCarver trying to hit 300 one year and had to do it on the last day. Had to get what, 2 for 2?
No, well, actually, I was batting 299.3 in 67. I was very interested in the last game of the season that year, and now you can see our colleague Steve Zabriskie enthralled in this ball game. He's trying to trick us, saying that he's reading the sports page over there when it's probably business today, right?
That is exactly right.
R.J. Reynolds now fouls it back, 0-1. No score here in the second. We were playing in Atlanta. We had clinched the pennant about 2 weeks before that. And Red Shandy said if you get a hit your first 2 times up, then you'll be hitting 299.6 or higher. And naturally, that would be 300. But I went 0 for 2. Then I got a hit. That wasn't enough. 0-2 to Reynolds. So I had to come back the next night and try. I went 1 for 4 the first night. I went 0 for 3 the next night. And then the final game of the season, I had to go 2 for 2. And I went 0 for 2 and ended up hitting 295. Most of the things that happened on the last day of the season for me were not real good.
The only time that I ever did anything on the last day of the season was here in Pittsburgh. I hit a grand slam home run to win a ball game in extra innings. And of course, the last day of the season, you certainly don't want to hit it, don't want to play extra innings. And we got that game over with, and the engines were running. We jumped in our cars and went home.
Ralph Kiner, one of 8 Pirates who have their numbers retired. In left field, Mr. K, then Pie Traynor. Bill Mazeroski with that famous home run, the 1-0 pitch off Ralph Terry in the 1960 World Series against the Yankees. That's Billy Meyer, of course, #1, great Pirate manager. And Reynolds down on strikes. That's 2 strikeouts.
There's another great manager, Danny Murtaugh. Paul Wainer, Roberto Clemente, Willie Stargell.
Stargell inducted into the Hall of Fame 2 years ago. 8 Pirates with their numbers retired. Jeff King now the batter. Jeff batting 197, but he does have some pop. 5 home runs on the year.
I think I said Paul Wainer. That was Hannes Wagner up there. Hannes Wagner, probably the greatest shortstop that ever played in the game of baseball. Paul Wainer really should have his number retired. He was a great player for the Pittsburgh Pirates, known as Big Poison. His brother Lloyd Wainer was known as Little Poison.
Paul Wainer, my first hitting instructor back in 1959.
And a good one.
I'll say. He was a roving batting instructor for the St. Louis Cardinals. 1-1 to Jeff King. Curveball high, 2 balls and a strike. There was a note just recently, I think it was last week, possibly the week before, where Paul and Lloyd Wainer, the only 2 brothers to hit back-to-back home runs in the history of baseball. Does that sound right? I think that's right.
They did it in the Polo Grounds. I remember the incident.
I think they did it one time, and that was the only time brothers have hit back-to-back home runs. 3-1. The appeal play. Charlie Williams says Jeff didn't go around. 3-1 to Jeff King. King walks. That's the first walk issued by Sid Fernandez.
Paul Wainer and Lloyd Wainer combined for the best productive brothers hitting season. Paul hit 380 one year and Lloyd hit 335.
Same year?
That was the same year.
Same year. Wow. 715 combined, 380 and 335. That's not too shabby. Jose Lind now the batter. Acrobatic second baseman for the Buccos. There goes King. The throw by Lombardi is low. So the Pirates taking advantage of the slow move homeward by Fernandez.
Second stolen base for the Pirates in this game. This time it's Jeff King getting the stolen base. And that is the fourth for King in 6 attempts. Gets a good jump. Lombardi basically is not a catcher. He does catch sometimes. He also plays first base, third base in the outfield.
Fly ball out of play, so it's no balls, 2 strikes to Jose Lind. That slow move homeward by Fernandez, the reverse of what both teams will be doing after this game. They will be scattering like a shotgun blast. Sid Fernandez going back to his home state of Hawaii in Honolulu. Sid was telling me before the game that his off season includes playing in the Pro-Am at Kapalua on Maui in the Isuzu Classic. And also on November 19th, he is going deer hunting with a bow and arrow with Mel Stottlemyre, the pitching coach. So if the Mets know he's going bow and arrow hunting, they're glad he's doing it with the pitching coach, right?
Keep an eye on him.
Oh, and 2 to Jose Lind. 1 out, 1 on, no score here in the second. And the curve hit hard. Great play by Elster, and he gets his man. 2 outs.
What a play by Kevin Elster. Elster, one of the outstanding fielding shortstops, and this play is really a tough play because he has to take the half hop. He smothers it, gets it in the glove, and has an easy play after making the catch. Outstanding.
Not only did that save a run, but Lind most certainly would have been on second. Good play by Elster. Dan Billardello, the catcher, now coming up. King still at second, 2 outs.
Elster has made just 15 errors this year, and of course he had that string where he went 88 games without an error, an all-time record for a shortstop. That was over 2 seasons.
When Fernandez is out in Washington in late November, he's also going to try to stop by and see his old teammate Doug Sisk. Doug out of baseball now, but I understand that he wants to resume pitching in 1990. Ball outside to Billardello. 1 ball and no strikes to the Pirate catcher.
Billardello hit his first major league home run off a pretty good pitcher.
I'll say number 41. Speaking of retired numbers, Tom Seaver's number retired, 1 of 3 retired for the Mets. Dan hit it in Cincinnati. 1-1 to Billardello. Fan Appreciation Day here at Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh. 20 to 23,000 on hand, I'd say. Ball and 2 strikes.
Speaking of trains, as we were, Mike Lesko wanted me to ask you this question. Where is it that you can see a train go in 3 different directions at the same time?
Mike Lesko wanted. Who is Mike Lesko, first of all?
Well, I really don't know. He wrote me that letter and asked me to ask you that question.
Tuxedo Junction.
That's a good guess. How about Altoona at the Horseshoe Curve?
You can see 3 different trains.
Yeah, no, the same train going 3 different directions on that curve in Altoona, going into Altoona.
I thought you were going to say some wedding or something. I mean, there's a train, right?
That's right.
There's no score. 3rd strikeout for Fernandez. We're back after this from Manufacturers Hanover. You have seen our colleague Steve Zabriskie enthralled in this game. That is the Mets reliever Randy Myers, the zany left-hander. And I am going to tell you what he is going to do during the offseason and how he is going to prepare for next spring. And you may find it hard to believe as Sid Fernandez leads off the third inning. No score, top of the third. 0-1 to Fernandez. Sid, a good hitting pitcher. His start against St. Louis, he had 3 hits and gave up 2. 0-2 to Fernandez.
One of those hits, a home run, his only home run in his major league career. It was no cheapie. He hit it in St. Louis.
Outside, ball 1, a ball and 2 strikes. Bob Patterson against Sid Fernandez. Fernandez with 3 strikeouts, giving him 194 on the season. He needs 8 to go ahead of Jose De Leon. He strikes out here, 1 away.
That one doesn't count on his record.
No. Greg Jeffries coming up.
And on the Nissan National League scoreboard, the Mets are fighting for second place. They're tied with the Cardinals, so that game important. And the Cubs did not score in the top of the first in St. Louis. Montreal losing to Philadelphia 3-0. That game in the top of the second. Houston just underway. LA another rain delay.
Inside to Jeffries. Ball 1.
3 straight days of rain in Atlanta for the Dodgers. They have a doubleheader scheduled there, and San Francisco playing San Diego.
How about that? Will Clark against Tony Gwynn, as Jeffries hits one hard, and a good play by Bonilla to get him 2 outs.
And on the American League Nissan scoreboard, of course, it's all over as far as Toronto and Baltimore concerned. No score, top of the second. Detroit and New York. Milwaukee trailing Boston 2-1, bottom of the fourth. Toronto 1, Baltimore nothing, top of the second. Cleveland and Chicago later. Texas and California, Kansas City and Oakland, and Minnesota against Seattle. And how about that Nolan Ryan, Tim? 301 strikeouts.
That is remarkable.
Yes,
42 years of age.
Total of 5,076 strikeouts in his major league career. 300 strikeouts, the 6th time he has done it, and the first time since 1977. His 23rd season in the major leagues. 18 times, 10 or more strikeouts.
Sharply left field, good play, Bell, and he gets Miller. Oh boy, what a good play by Jay Bell. We're going to let you sit on it. I know you're just waiting with bated breath to hear about Randy Myers. No score, middle of the third. We're back after this from your Lincoln Mercury dealers. Well, we told you we would tell you what Randy Myers is going to do in the offseason. We're going to keep our promise. Randy Myers told me before the game that he is going to bulk up to 220 pounds. Randy weighs about 180 right now. He's going to bulk up to 220 pounds, but he's going to maintain flexibility, working with the karate instructor. And the reason for that is with the prospects of a baseball strike next year, he is going to have a tryout with the Washington Redskins as a linebacker. He has a friend of his. Now Randy told me this in all sincerity, which doesn't necessarily make it true, but as far as Randy is concerned, it was true. The prospects of a baseball strike in 1990, Randy may open the season next year with the Washington Redskins. Bob Patterson now the batter. No score here in the third.
So he's going to put on 40 pounds to do that?
That's what he said. I said, what if there is no baseball strike? Then what do you do with the extra 40 pounds? He said, I'll use it. Said, I'll add 10 miles an hour on my fastball. Low to Patterson, 2-0 to Bob.
He's wishing that someday he'll throw one 100 miles an hour. And he works out daily in the weight room. $3-0 to Patterson. How about the days when they said don't lift weights? It's bad for you if you're a ball player.
Patterson walks. The second walk issued by Fernandez.
There was a good chance for him to pick up another strikeout in his quest to lead the National League in strikeouts, but he walks the pitcher.
You know, Ralph, concerning weights, we are in such an early stage as far as the knowledge is concerned. I think so many players that certainly has been one of the reasons for the many players on the disabled list. The weightlifting without the proper flexibility to go along with it.
Now, why is he throwing over there with the pitcher on base?
I don't know. Fastball for a strike to Barry Bonds, who struck out in the first inning. Strength is fine. Strength is terrific, as a matter of fact, as long as it's not at the expense of flexibility and elasticity, especially if you're playing baseball. Curve is outside, 1-1. You can see it for interior linemen, a nose tackle or somebody like that.
There was a time in baseball where they didn't even want you to swim.
Why would that be?
Supposed to have something to do with tightening up the muscles. I don't know what the theory was, but that wasn't too long ago. We're talking about 1940, 1950.
I would think the reverse would be true with swimming.
Swimming certainly would seem to be a wonderful exercise. It's used in so much therapy nowadays.
Yeah. 2 balls and a strike to Barry Bonds. No score here in the third. Fly ball right center field. Carry on. Miller. It's Miller, 1 out. And the batter Jay Bell, who singled and stole second in the first.
Jay Bell.
Other pitchers who are doing various things. Doc Gooden, I talked to Doc. Doc is going to Florida, and he's going to throw easy starting in November, not off the mound, but that is his prescribed regimen for at least November and December. A bunch of the players will be hitting the links. I would imagine Greg Jeffries will give himself about a month and then go back to his intensive training. He swings underwater with the bat 100 times a day under the guidance of his dad. 1-0 to Jay Bell. There's Greg.
They asked him about, since he was in the major leagues and has had a complete major league year, if he was going to take it easy, and he says, no, I'm going to go back home and work even harder.
Harder than ever. Kevin McReynolds, in about a month and a half, will be in the duck blinds of his duck club south of Little Rock, Arkansas, near Stuttgart. Kevin, the starting left fielder today. Matter of fact, I think part of his contract was contributed to environmental control for the state of Arkansas. Kevin just signing a 3-year contract before this year. So Kevin duck hunting in about a month and a half. Arkansas flyaway. 2-1 to Jay Bell.
I know after a full baseball season, you really like to get away and hide somewhere, and that duck hunting's got to be one of the great ways to do it. I used to go up to Lake Tahoe. I had a friend that had a resort up there. It was closed, obviously, in October, and we just hang out there for about a month and do nothing, just to get away from the pressures of baseball and the people around, and it's great to be able to do that.
2-2 to Jay Bell. 1 out, 1 on here in the third, and Bell down on strikes. That's 4 strikeouts now for Fernandez, and on the season that gives him 195, and he is 6 behind Jose De Leon to tie for the league leadership and 7 to break it. De Leon pitching yesterday. Speaking of Ducks Unlimited, Billy Hatcher now the batter. Goose eggs on the board now. The Mets have not scored in 3, nor have the Pirates. 0-1 to Hatcher.
You could always tell when the end of the season was coming around. When Joel Youngblood was with the Mets, he'd start growing a beard for his hunting activities, and he too was a deer hunter with a bow and arrow.
Upstate New York. Used to take his Doberman Pinscher up there. Bob Patterson at first, 2 outs, no score here in the 2nd inning. No balls, 2 strikes to Hatcher. Frank Viola will be returning to Florida. Frank was kidding before the game, saying, trying to get my mind straight, a losing pitcher. And Ralph, you had an interesting comment about the Cy Young Awards of last year.
Both of them could end up with losing records this year. Hershiser is scheduled to pitch in the 2nd game of the doubleheader in Atlanta, and he'll have to win that game to break even at 500 for the season.
Hershiser 14-15 now, but is 2nd in the league in earned run average and has really had a fine year. No support whatsoever for the Dodgers, who lead all National League clubs in being shut out. They've been shut out 17 times this year. Still 1-2 to Hatcher.
I think they got Hershiser something like 3 runs in his last 50 or so innings of pitching. Last year, of course, he had that fantastic record of 59 consecutive scoreless innings to break the record held by Don Drysdale at 58, and it took him into the 10th inning of the final game of the year to get that 59.
It almost hit Hatcher, and only because of his great athletic ability did it not hit Billy. So it's 2-2.
This will make a nice dance step right here. He just does get out of the way.
Finding a partner may be difficult, however. Little looper, shallow center, in is Miller, and he makes the play. Still no score after 3. Steve Zabriskie joins Ralph right after this from DHL Courier.
Well, Sid Fernandez completing the inning and going into the dugout, and he spends a little time with Mel Stoudemire, the pitching coach of the New York Mets, regarding his pitching performance. And coming in here now after checking out the financial update, and he'll have that for you later on in the broadcast, Mr. Steve Zabriskie.
Thanks, Ralphie. I was, however, reading the sports page, but did make a quick pass to the financial section.
A likely story.
Howard Johnson leads it off. Actually, I was looking for an article about either you or Tim that I could use today.
Derogatory, no less.
Oh. Howard Johnson with a base hit. His first time up in the 1st. And he takes inside ball 1.
Howard, the only member of the 30-30 club this year, and one of the members of the 2020 club. There are only 5. Howard Johnson, Bo Jackson, Von Hayes, Eric Davis, and Lonnie Smith, who have hit 20 home runs and had 20 stolen bases. Here is Hojo's stats among the leaders in all of those departments. What a year he's had.
The lowest there is 4th, and in one of those instances tied for 4th. Everything else, he is in the top 3 in the National League. And he takes inside, and the count now 2 balls and 1 strike. Hojo has an aunt, Jan, in Clearwater, who is 95 years old, and he wanted to be remembered to her today because she is not feeling 100%. So Howard sends his best to his Aunt Jan. 95 years old. That's wonderful.
We have a fellow named Ernie Stevenson who is 93 years old out in our TV audience. Tom Coates sends his best regards to him. Tom and Christopher. 93 years of age.
3-1 now to Hojo. And ball 4. That's the first walk issued by Bob Patterson. And today's game is being brought to you in part by RC Cola. Some people go out of their way for the taste of RC. And by the New Jersey Bell Yellow Pages. No other book can match it. New Jersey Bell, a Bell Atlantic company. Johnson at first with nobody out for Kevin McReynolds, who grounded to third, ending the first inning.
Kevin singled in the go-ahead run and the winning run for the Mets in the 11th inning yesterday.
Strike 1.
Mets playing for second place, and it could mean about $15,000 to each man who has a full share of the voting, including the coaching staff and the manager.
A little bit inside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Johnson's easily back at first. If the Mets win today, they are assured of at least tying the Cardinals for second place behind the Cubs. If they lose this game, they have no such assurance. Two balls, 1 strike. This is where it stands.
Yeah, it looks this way. 6 games back of the Cubs. And a chance to win 87.
Well hit to left. Bonds going back. He can only watch. It's 2-0 New York. Kevin McReynolds' 16th home run of the year, and it may be worth $15,000. I'm sorry, 22nd home run of the year.
And it's a fastball out over the plate, and Kevin gets it all. So the Mets take the lead 2-0 on the 2-run home run by McReynolds.
And Tim Tuffle takes the ball. McReynolds now with 85 RBIs. 1-1 to Tuffle. And 2-1. Tuffle grounded to third his first time up, as Jeff King has been kept busy over there at third base. Tuffle had a good cut, but it's 2-2. Well, now Timmy's back with the newspaper. What are you reading? The funny papers? That's a popular paper today. Gonna rub the ink right off of that thing. Ralph will get his shot the last 3 innings.
Save some for me.
Down low, ball 4. So no one yet retired here in the 4th inning. Patterson has walked 2, and Ray Miller, the pitching coach, is on the phone. Doug Bear getting up and getting loose. Here's Mark Carrion, who singled to center in the second inning. He has hit in the last 8 straight games of this season now, hitting close to 500 during his 8-game hitting streak. Tuffle running on the first pitch, but the ball is fouled off, and it caught a piece of Dan Billardello, and Kent Biggerstaff, the trainer for the Pirates, is out quickly. That ball ricocheted.
Interference.
It's catcher's interference. That's right, because Carrion's going to first. I was going to say, if that ball hit him and didn't hit the bat, it certainly ricocheted off strongly.
Evidently, he hits the bat of Carrion as Carrion reaches out on the hit and run play. And there he gets it back to the hand, and the glove knocked off on the swing. So it's catcher's interference. That'll be an error on the catcher, and it also hurts.
A painful error, and possibly in more ways than one. So it moves Tuffle down to second. Carrion at first. Still nobody out, and 2 runs in here for Phil Lombardi, who flied to short right field in the second. On the corner, strike 1. I think one of the more interesting stories about what's going to happen in the offseason is Ron Darling's planned tour of Europe. Ronnie is leaving tomorrow. His wife Tony is already overseas. Tony unfortunately had to go to Ireland because her father has been ill, so Ronnie has the baby, not a baby anymore, young Tyler, their son, with him on this trip. And Ronnie is going to take Tyler with him to Europe. That can be fun, traveling with a small child.
Very small child.
Overseas.
He's also planning a safari.
Yep.
Safari in Africa, where he will be taking photographs of the wildlife there.
Camera safari, which is fortunately become the more popular type of safari. 1-1. Patterson with a fake to second. Just inside.
Phil Lombardi, the 37th player to play for the Mets and the Yankees.
And of course, Jay had a wonderful note, Jay Horwitz, on the notes sheet during this series, that Phil is not related to the late great football coach Vince Lombardi, and in fact, as a little afterthought, Phil has no famous relatives. I thought that was a good note. Fouled off, and the count now even at 2-2.
A little better than the one he trapped me on.
There's Jay, notorious for his spring training and end of the year bogus notes.
He had a note in there yesterday that Blaine Beatty, the the pitcher for the Mets in yesterday's ball game, was the cousin of Zelmo Beatty.
You can't trust Jay at all.
He got me, and he also got the television station here in Pittsburgh, who had it Chiron.
They put it up graphically on the screen. It's a full count now to Lombardi, as that pitch just did miss outside.
As a matter of fact, Blaine is called Zelmo.
That's his nickname. That's right. Guys on the team call him Zelmo. Ball 4 with the runners going, and the bases are loaded with nobody out. 3 walks in the inning issued by Patterson.
1 before the home run by McReynolds and 2 after.
And here comes Jim Leland. So that may do it for Patterson as he trails only 2-0 here in the 4th. Doug Bear will come into the game with the bases loaded and nobody out after this for Sears.
Well, the Mets are looking forward to a little bear hunting themselves as he comes in the ball game with a record of 2-3 and 1 save, an earned run average of 2.34. He has walked 27, struck out 54, giving up 51 hits and 65 in the third innings.
So he'll face Kevin Elster with the bases loaded and nobody out. Bob Patterson going just 3+ innings, failing to get an out and facing 5 hitters here in the fourth as Elster has a weak hack for strike 1. Kevin flied to right field to end the second inning. Sharply to third. King will go to second. Lean to first. Double play. As a run scores, Tim Tuffle from third base to make it 3-0 New York.
Well, no run batted in as there was a double play, but the Mets get a run as the Pirates turn 2. Goes from King to Lean to Bonilla. The Mets leading by a score of 3-0.
On the plate, Carry On moving to third, where he will be with 2 out. And the hitter, Sid Fernandez, who looked at a called third strike opening the third inning. Slash to left for a base hit. Fernandez drives in Carry On with the 4th run of the game.
Sid with his 15th base hit of the year and his 8th run batted in. He's also had 1 home run this year. David Cohn leads all the pitchers in base hits with 18. And Sid helping his own cause here, putting a good swing on a pitch down and away.
Sid will probably end up the year hitting over 200 as he entered the game hitting 209, and he's 1 for 2. That brings up Greg Jeffries, the 8th hitter to bat this inning, and he takes a ball outside. Jeffries 0 for 2 has grounded to third and grounded to short. And now Bear wants to talk to Bill Ardello. Down low. 2 balls, no strikes.
A real winner knows how to party right. Please use good sense when you drink. Know when to say when. A reminder from your friends at Anheuser-Busch.
And that party balloon right between Jose Lean and the ball, but he throws out Greg Jeffries, and the inning is over. The Mets, however, score 4 times. Kevin McReynolds with a home run to get it going and lead 4-0 in the middle of the fourth. We're back after this for RC Cola.
Well, this play symbolic of what's happening to the Mets and the Pirates here today. The party is over as the party balloon almost gets in the way of the ground ball hit by Jeffries, but Jose Lean handles it well. He knows how to party.
He backed up to get the hop and avoid the balloon. 4-0 New York. And Bobby Bonilla leads off the bottom of the fourth for Pittsburgh. Bonilla popped out to Greg Jeffries in short right field as Jeffries made a good play to end the first inning. Then he fouls it back for strike 1. Bonilla over the last 17 games has hit .431. He is closing strongly. A strike on the corner makes it 0-2. Bonilla may also have found a home at first base these latter days of the season. Curveball low, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Bonilla, Reynolds, and King here in the 4th for the Pirates. Two and 2. Well, how many rounds of golf are you going to play a day here, Ralph, when the season's over?
I play about 8 days a week.
Just 1 round a day, or do you
Occasionally go an extra 9.
And now it's 3 and 2 after no balls, 2 strikes, a full count to Bonilla. Well, now that you have the golf cart the Pirates gave you, you play all day, right?
That works out real nicely, but you know what happened when I left to come here to Pittsburgh?
Popped up in the infield. Tuffle and Elster almost colliding, and Sid Fernandez had a thought of making the play as the ball didn't have hardly any hang time. Somebody had to get there in a hurry.
Tuffle did, and he makes the catch. Unfortunately, no one hurt on this final day of baseball. Elster coming up on the play, not hearing Tuffle, and Sid here evidently not yelling for one to take it. But Tuffle does make the play.
And here's R.J. Reynolds, who is 0 for his last 21 at-bats out of play. So anyway, what happened?
So I told my wife to take my golf clubs and make sure that they were taken out of the back seat of my car, or the trunk of my car. She forgot to. And I don't know where the car is because we turned it back in. So I might not be able to play any golf.
Your clubs are now in the hands of a car dealer.
That's right.
Swing and a miss. 0-2. You didn't have to drive that golf cart back to Palm Springs from Pittsburgh, did you?
No, no. Jim Rooker is going to do that for me.
It'd be a long trip.
Yeah, 15 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It would be pretty long.
Take you. You might not make spring training. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 1 out, nobody on in the bottom of the 4th. And New York scoring 4 in their half of the 4th to lead 4-0.
So if anybody's listening at Barron Buick, those clubs go back to Shea Stadium.
Oh, you ought to have them send them to your house. Still 1-2 to Reynolds. I think you ought to, just ship them right to Palm Springs.
If I know Mike well from Barron Buick, he'll probably have them sold by this time.
High and away, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Right next to Jay Horwitz is Dan Castellano, a writer and a good one for the Newark Star-Ledger and for the Sporting News. And tomorrow is Danny's birthday.
And Dan don't believe anything that Jay says.
3-2, another full count.
He tells you the strawberry's being traded, don't write it.
Well, Jay came in here to tell me that it was Dan's birthday and he wanted to wish him a happy birthday, which is actually tomorrow. And I said to Jay, now is this a real story or what? You can't trust him.
He also had a retirement dinner or something like that for Gene Cohen.
Well, R.J. Reynolds ends the streak of no hits in 21 straight at bats with a single to center on a 3-2 pitch.
Now they'll have to work on Junior Ortiz, who has had no hits in his last 20 at bats. Getting off the snide right there for the season. That would be a tough way to end the season. 0 for 22 or 23.
Well, R.J.'s okay now. Well, you end the season thinking you may never get another hit again. Jeff King, the batter, as Fernandez throws to first. King walked his first time up and stole a base.
Bob Buell, a pitcher for Milwaukee and the Cubs one year, went the whole season without a base hit. He was 0 for 72. He's the only pitcher that went 0 for 1 year.
Up the middle, but snagged by Hernandez, who throws to Elster, and Elster in time to Tuffle, and the inning is over. 1 hit, but nobody left in the 4th, and after 4, it's still 4-0 Mets. Back after this for Delta Airlines. There's Jim Rooker, the former Pirates pitcher, current Pirates broadcaster, and you may have heard that Rook will begin his unintentional walk from Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia to Three River Stadium here in Pittsburgh this week, because he said in a ball game early in the year when the Pirates were up 10-0 in Philadelphia, if the Pirates lose this game, I will walk back to Pittsburgh. He's going to do it for charity, and before the game we talked to him about it.
I don't know if I've really gotten over it yet. In fact, that I have to pay off is maybe one of the scariest things. I mean, I've stuck my foot in my mouth before, but I've never had to pay off, because you figure it's safe to say something like that. But because of the reaction of the fans, that's what really got it going. The fans reacted to it, and I just felt that if we could get charities involved, Bob Prince Charities and Children's Hospital, of people that could really benefit from this, and it would be a fun thing to do. And it wouldn't hurt us bad.
Well, Rook's going to take about 4 pair of running shoes. He's going to have a mobile home. He's going to have a chase car, and I hope oxygen and some other things. And people who might want to contribute to either Bob Prince Charities or Children's Hospital can do so by writing to this address for Rook's unintentional walk, which of course is a great thing for a former pitcher to call it, I think.
Pirates scored 10 runs in the first inning and then lost the game 15-11 to the Phillies.
Rook put both feet in his mouth that day, but at least he's fessing up and making good for a good cause. It's going to take him probably about 8 or 9 days to do it, I think.
Would you believe 20?
You think 20 days? Well, they're not planning on it being that long.
It'll take him. I think he's going to run out of gas pretty soon.
He's scheduled in here the following Thursday, so they are planning that it's going to take him 13 days. I beg your pardon. He's not scheduled here till the 17th. So almost 2 weeks of walking with daily stops. They published the route. I mean, this is going to get great play, and it really is for a worthy cause for both the Bob Prince Charities, named for the late Pirate broadcaster, and then Children's Hospital here in Pittsburgh, which is a very famous and well-respected medical institution.
Saw that other name up there next to Bob and back of Jim Rooker, Rosie Rosewell, who was the original Pirate broadcaster.
Howard Johnson 1 for 1 plus a walk and a run scored, now with a count of 2 balls and 2 strikes. And you saw during the Jim Rooker interview that Keith Miller led off the inning by grounding out to short. Mets leading 4-0 in the 5th.
Actually,
and now full count.
The original broadcaster, the first baseball game ever broadcast, was done by Harold Arland, and it was Pittsburgh against Philadelphia. Pittsburgh won it 8-5, and it was on KDKA, the first radio broadcast ever, on August 25th, 1921.
Ball 4. Johnson walks for the 2nd time. It's the first walk issued by Bear.
And do you know that the only triple header was played back in 1920 here in Pittsburgh?
Is that right?
Only triple header. The last day of the season, it was the Cincinnati Reds against the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Reds clinched 3rd place by winning the first game, and then they also won the 2nd. And Pittsburgh finally won the 3rd game, which was called after 6.
This is called Horseshoes with the Rosin Bag. Randy Myers and Julio Machado competing. This one bounces away from Bill Ardello, and Johnson will go to 2nd easily on the wild pitch.
Well, this pitch down in the dirt, it gets by Bill Ardello and will be scored as a wild pitch, and the Mets have a runner in scoring position as Johnson moves from 1st to 2nd.
Then it count 1 ball to McReynolds, who hit a 2-run home run his last time up. Now Machado and Myers are going to trade sides, I guess. Look at Randy. Randy's making up the rules as they go along here. Got to do something down there. That's foul.
What if they're playing for iguanos?
Look at this. He's putting a hat. Is this going to be the target? Wonder whose hat that is. Julio wants to put it up high to make it tough. I'll tell you. Good breaking ball. 1 ball, 2 strikes. This may go on forever here. Well, they've got the attention of the rest of the guys in the bullpen, that's for sure. McReynolds holds up, and the count is 2-2. Mack with his 22nd home run in the 4th. A 2-run shot.
This might be the slowest final game of the season game I've seen in a long time.
Doug Bear is pitching like it's the World Series or something. McReynolds chases one, and he's out of there. That's out number 2. First strikeout for Bear.
First baseman, Tim Tumble.
Well, here's the beanbag toss. Oh, didn't make it. There isn't going to be any rosin left in that bag pretty soon.
Whoever hat that is in deep trouble. You never get it off your head once you put it on.
I was looking around. Myers never going to make it with that kind of toss. Looking around, everybody has their hat on, so either they clandestinely stole one from somebody or it's an extra hat. That one bounces away from Villardello, and Johnson moves to 3rd. We'll see how that is scored. That looked like it might have been a catchable pitch.
And this ball again in the dirt. Really wasn't in the dirt. I guess it could be scored a pass ball. And it is.
I don't think that's appropriate. So a wild pitch moved Johnson to 2nd after he walked, and a pass ball has moved him to 3rd with 2 out. And 1 ball to count to Tim Tuffle, who was grounded to 3rd and walked and scored. A strike right in there, 1-1. Tim Tuffle figures to be back with the Mets next year. The interesting off season for New York. Tuffle may have gone too far. 1 ball, 2 strikes. But I guess the biggest speculation, there's Keith Hernandez. All the speculation surrounding he and Carter is that they will not be back. The biggest speculation has to do with whether or not Davy Johnson will manage in 1990, even though he has 2 years left on his contract. A little bit high, 2-2.
If the Mets win this ball game, the Mets will have won 87 games this year. Davy has won 90 or more every year he's managed the Mets in his first 5 years.
Tuffle did not swing. Charlie Williams verifies the fact, and it's 3-2.
Yesterday we had Charlie on camera practicing his putting stroke. This is a breaking ball, and Tuffle starts to swing and manages to hold up in time.
And he takes strike 3. A walk and one left in the fifth for New York. After 4.5, 4-0 Mets. More from Pittsburgh on the final day after this for Mobil Gasoline. We're going to go for the world's record reading this overworded disclaimer, and you can watch at home and see if we make it. Are you ready, guys? Here we go. This copyrighted telecast is authorized under television rights granted by the New York Mets solely for the entertainment of our audience, publication, reproduction, and use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the written consent of the New York Mets. Sterling AA Enterprises and WWOR-TV is prohibited. Any commercial or other use of the program, such as by charging commission for its showing, is similarly prohibited. What is it?
15 seconds.
So that's got to be the record. I can't read it any faster.
That might be the American record. I'm not too sure whether it's a Canadian record.
I don't know. We have to add that to the Olympics. It'll be a demonstration sport, I think, coming up. I'm out of gas, so here's Ralph.
And the pitch there is taken for a ball as you look at the leadoff batter for the Pittsburgh Pirates. In the bottom half of the fifth inning, Jose Lean. Lean grounded out his first time up. 15 seconds. A new American record. I don't think that guy that does those commercials could do that in less than 15 seconds.
I don't know. He talks awfully fast. There's another party balloon.
So the party's not over. Still continuing. Bottom half of the fifth inning, Lean works out a walk. And that puts a runner on with no one out as Sid Fernandez walks his third man in this ball game. He has struck out 4. He has a total of 195 strikeouts. De Leon leads the National League in strikeouts with 201. Sid has not had a strikeout since the third inning, and he'll now work to Dan Billadello, who was a strikeout victim back in the second. And that pitch taken for a strike, and it's strike one. Mets leading by a score of 4-0. And a throw to first base. Pirates have had 2 stolen bases in this game. And a wild swing and a miss, strike 2. Sid with a record of 13-5 this year, a fine year. He's 0-1 against the Pirates. But lifetime, he's 9-3 against Pittsburgh.
And if Sid could have turned half of his no decisions into wins, he would have been a 20-game winner this year quite easily.
And it's a pop-up on the right field side. Carey on the right fielder calls for it, makes the play, one away. So the Mets trailing, I should say, leading by a score of 4-0. The Pirates will go for a pinch hitter. It will be John Cangelosi.
Cangelosi batting for Doug Bear, hitting .220 on the year.
He's had a tough time as a pinch hitter, and that's his primary job.
They got him from the Chicago White Sox. As a pinch hitter, he's been up 67 times with only 12 base hits, and has driven in just 2 runs as a pinch hitter.
Runner at first base, and another throw there.
Good play by Tuffle.
Stan Belinda, the side armor, throwing in the bullpen for the Pirates. And this pitch is hit foul. Howard Johnson over by the Mets dugout. It's out of reach and out of play. Pirates are off over 400,000 in paid attendance this year from last year when they set a record. Drawing over 1,800,000 last season.
I wonder if Howard Johnson hurt himself on the camera. Hojo just to the right. Watch this. This is good night. Good night. Hello. Hojo ran right into the camera lens and may have scraped his arm. He was looking at it as he walked back to his position.
And the fastball taken high in the count. 1 ball and 1 strike.
It's not what you want to do. Get hurt on the last day of the season. You don't want to get hurt anytime, obviously, but on a play like that where it's not really very meaningful would be very frustrating.
Howard missed only 9 games all year, and this ball hit hard to left field going over as McReynolds, and he's there and he makes the catch. Jose Lean backpedaling to first base in reverse. 2 men away. That'll bring up Barry Bonds. Bonds 0 for 2. I asked Tim McCarver earlier if he knew where you can see a train travel in 3 different directions, east, north, and west. Do you know where you could see that, Steve?
I heard that.
You heard that?
Yes, I heard that. At
The
that
horseshoe
curve in Altoona.
And the reason why I brought it back up is that I remember the first time I took the Pennsylvania Railroad to New York, I had the porter wake me up so I could go out on the end of the train and see that.
I have traveled that stretch of track myself, being the train buff that I am.
About 4 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't very smart then.
At 4 o'clock in the morning, how could you see it? It was dark.
Well, there was quite a sight. Of course, you see the
There's
headlight.
quite a sight right there. Those uniforms the ball boys are wearing.
You see the headlight on the train, and the train going around that tremendous curve, that horseshoe curve.
It is impressive. You need to have a long train in order to get the full effect.
2 strikes to count. Barry Bonds a batter and another throw to first base. Sid is in no hurry to get to Hawaii. In more important business, working on a shutout. He has given up just 2 hits in this game. And he gets a strike. So the strikeout ends the inning. Sid gets his 5th strikeout in the ballgame, the 2nd against Barry Bonds. And it retires the side. A walk and 1 man left on. The score at the end of 5 innings of play here at Three Rivers. The Mets 4 and the Pirates nothing. Now here's a word from Budweiser.
Number 60,
Stan Belenda making his 8th appearance since being called up to the Pirates. 0-1, no saves, and a 4.32 earned run average. And he becomes the 3rd pitcher of the afternoon for Pittsburgh, as Doug Bear relieved the starter Bob Patterson in the 4th and worked 2 innings.
And Belinda will be pitching to Mark Carrion, as you see the Pirate version of Batman out here at Three Rivers Stadium.
The Pirate Parrot. He has the same physique as Batman too. Did you notice that?
Mark Carrion, the batter, 1 for 2 in this game. Singled his first time up. And he takes the first pitch for strike 1. Carrion batting at .302 coming into this game. 308 now with his 1 for 2, and he takes outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Next game here at Three Rivers Stadium will be next year on April the 3rd. The Mets and the Pirates opening day, starting a new decade. And the fastball missed, 1 and 2. This will be the first decade that no player has hit 50 home runs. in a season, starting with 1920. It has been done a few times, 10 times.
I think there are really a number of reasons for that, Ralph, and I would pose two: the larger size of the newer ballparks and relief pitching. I think those are two things that make it more difficult to hit home runs.
George Bell had 49, and so did Mark McGuire, but not 50.
Well, you know, it's going to happen again. I'm sure somebody's going to hit 50 home runs in a season, but I think it is more difficult than it used to be.
Kevin Mitchell had a great chance. He had 31 home runs at the All-Star break, but only one player who had 30 or more home runs at the All-Star break ever hit more than 50 home runs or 50 home runs. And that was Roger Maris, who ended up with 61.
I remember in 1965, Willie Mays hit 52, I think, and he hit 17 home runs in September to hit 52.
Great play by Bonilla, and he can't complete it because Belinda did not get off the mound. He became a spectator.
And Bonilla also may have injured his back. I mean, he really did the flip-flop like a fish out of water. Jim Leland and the trainer Kent Biggerstaff are out to check him. I mean, it's a phenomenal play to take an extra base hit away. Carrion winds up with an infield base hit. But Bonilla showing a glove at first that he did not show with any consistency at third base. That's just a great stop. Belinda, I guess, figured that there's no way that ball's going to be flagged down. He didn't even run over there. And Bobby strained his lower back.
Well, the Pirates might have found a first baseman and a third baseman. Jeff King, who was playing first base, has been moved to third, and he has looked very good over there. And Bonilla has looked outstanding at first, and he's going to leave the ball game.
And I think this is a wise move. There is no sense whatsoever in taking any kind of a chance at all with a guy as important to this ball club as Bobby Bonilla is. And he's getting a standing ovation.
Bonilla with 35 errors this year, playing third base, but most of his errors were on throws. So when you play first base, you don't have that problem.
His real value, however, is at the plate. He has led the Pirates in almost every offensive category, and with the difficult year they've had and all the injuries and the expectations that were unfulfilled, good heavens, where would they be without him? I mean, the total disaster. Andy Van Slyke is going to enter the game to play first base.
Bonilla leading the Pirates in home runs and runs batted in, and in batting average, as Andy Van Slyke gets a mixed greeting here at Three Rivers Stadium. Last year he was the most popular player, but this year he's had an off year, and it all started because of injuries.
Well, I don't know how you can boo this guy. He gives you everything he has. He has terrific ability, and he's been hurt numerous times this year. That just, as Andy has said, it's a wasted and lost season.
That'll bring up Phil Lombardi. Lombardi has flied to right field and walked, and there goes the runner, and the pitch is taken. The throw way high, and carry on with a stolen base.
Jose leaned, giving you a little example of his leaping ability on this play. It's a strike to Lombardi, and Bill Ardello unleashes one that sails high and leaned up to get it, and high enough to stay out of the way of Mark Carrion. Lean can leap over you when you're standing straight up.
That's his hobby, jumping over people from a standing position, and he can do that. That pitch is taken and foul tipped at the same time. So it's strike two.
That stolen base by Carrion, only his second in 5 attempts this year.
Mets are second in the National League in stolen bases, which might come as a surprise to you. They have 157 now. Most of them by Juan Samuel. There's a line drive base hit to right field. Carrying a late start is being held up. He had to hold to see whether or not that ball would be caught, and he stays at third.
The way Jose leaned can leap. That's probably had an effect on Carrion's decision. You can't really tell how far this ball is toward first base from Jose, and Jose broke on the ball as if he thought he had a chance to jump up and get it. So it's understandable that Carrion wanted to be sure he wasn't doubled off.
So runners down at first and third with no one out, and the batter will be Kevin Elster. Elster hit into a double play in the fourth when the Mets picked up a run. He was batting with the bases loaded. He also has flied to right. And the first pitch a called strike. Mets leading 4-0. They have 4 runs on 6 hits. The Pirates have no runs on 2. And a foul ball, strike 2. Two strikes to count on Kevin Elster. And a ball call. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Fastball fouled off, keeping the count at 1 ball and 2 strikes. Elster hitting .233 in the year. Last year he hit .214.
Well, we check in on the Rosenbag game, and now Randy Myers is pitching to Julio Machado.
What do you do on the last day of the season in the bullpen?
Depending on your psychological makeup, anything to keep yourself from being bored.
Little pop-up on the second base side, and Lean moves over to make the catch. Elster is out. Runners holding, Carrion at third and Lombardi at first, and that'll bring up Sid Fernandez, who singled in a run his last time up. Sid 1 for 2 in this game. Sid now with 15 base hits on the year. 3 of them have been doubles and 1 of them a home run. Ron Darling leads the club in home runs as far as the pitchers are concerned with 2. I doubt if Sid has that in mind as he steps to the plate.
He wants that club lead in pitchers home runs. No, I don't think he's considering it at the moment.
And he moves out to sacrifice, takes inside for a ball. This would be the safety bunt to move the runner from first down to second. The obligation of the third base runner is to possibly score if it's a good bunt. Ball bunted where they could not make a play at home. 1-0 pitch again. Sid squares and bunts the ball foul.
Sid has to get that bat head out a lot farther if he's going to bunt that ball in fair territory. Very difficult to bunt a ball in fair territory when you have the bat head in foul territory, because you want to bunt the ball down.
And a check in the swing and a foul ball. If you would like to learn more about the bunt play and also about how to play baseball, you could attend the fantasy camp that Steve Zabriskie conducts in the wintertime.
That's right, Rafi. We'll have Ultimate Week. In fact, it's been so popular we've had to add an additional week, which will be January 28th through February 4th and is going fast.
And a swing and a miss, and Sid Fernandez is struck out. So 2 men away, runner still at first and third, and that'll bring up Greg Jefferies looking for his first hit. He has grounded out all 3 times he has been up.
Since you brought it up, Ralphie, we're going to have a spot on in the 7th inning about the camp. But I just would remind those who have requested information and brochures that the deadline is October 15th. So don't delay. We'll have all the Mets coaches there, and you'll go away with a better appreciation for the game than you had before, I think.
And also a videotape in a Mets uniform.
2 uniforms, actually, we're going to give them, both the home and road uniforms. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And Jefferies fouls off the fastball.
Well, they've gone to the real thing now. Rosin must have gone out of the bag.
Randy's going to have a new pitch next year. He's going to pitch right-handed.
Right-handed with a catcher's mitt.
That won't get it.
That looks like the pizza pan job right there. Look at that thing.
Hard ground ball up the middle by Jefferies, and that'll score carry on. And Jefferies getting an RBI.
Jefferies' first hit in 4 at-bats and his 56th RBI of the year as he laces a rocket past Leaned. This ball got in on him, and he really turned in a hurry to keep from being jammed. And it's now 5-0 New York.
And the batter will be Keith Miller. Miller, robbed of a base hit in the 3rd inning, has no hits in 3 at-bats. And he takes a called strike. Miller, the versatile Mets player. And he takes another for strike 2.
That's an unusual pitch that Belinda throws. It's an off-speed breaking ball of some kind. Looks like he takes something off the slider. Changes speeds with it a little bit.
And a check swing foul ball. So the count stays at strike 2.
Now we have Julio Machado in the bullpen throwing left-handed. Well, it's Manny Hernandez in the bullpen. Manny's going to throw left-handed. Now watch this. This must be who can do the best with the wrong arm. Well, we found out he can't catch with the glove on his right hand. Myers is probably throwing it back to him right-handed too.
A swing and a miss for strike 3. So the Mets pick up here in the National League. De Leon with 201. And the fastball for ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes.
Sid's high this year in a ball game. 16 strikeouts against the Atlanta Braves in a game that he lost on a Lonnie Smith home run in the bottom of the 9th inning.
And Lonnie Smith should be the comeback player of the year in the National League. This ball hit high in the air, and it will come down. If it doesn't, we're in deep trouble. So Elster makes the catch. And that'll bring up Billy Hatcher. Hatcher has popped up to second and flied out to center field in his 2 appearances. And this one also popped up high in the air, and it should come down. Law of gravity still exists. 2 men away.
Yes, that's a comforting thought to us all. There are some Mets fans here.
And that'll bring up Andy Van Slyke batting for the first time. He came in the game to replace Bobby Bonilla, who had a pulled muscle, making a diving stop of a hard shot hit by Carrion. And the first pitch to Van Slyke taken for ball one. Van Slyke hitting .281. 9 home runs, 53 runs batted in. And a swinging strike. 1-1 the count. Fernandez has won 8 of his last 11 decisions. Van Slyke actually hitting .238 with 9 home runs and 53 RBIs, making it worse after an MVP type year last year. And that pitch fouled away. I would have to say, Steve, that the winner of the MVP in the National League will be Kevin Mitchell.
Certainly would get my vote. I think that one of the biggest factors in who is selected to that award is the overall record of the team, of course. And although Howard Johnson and Pedro Guerrero have had MVP years, Mitchell has just been a terror all season long, and the Giants won the division.
Hard smash and taken in the air by.
For the Pittsburgh Pirates, consider the fact that Sid Fernandez in his last 3 outings, covering 24 innings, as Hojo takes strike one, 1-1 to Howard. Sid Fernandez over 24 innings has given up 7 hits and 1 run, covering 2 complete games and 6 innings of this game. Johnson with a run scored, now with 103 runs scored, 1 behind Will Clark for the leadership. This one off the glove of Van Slyke, and Lean can't get to it, so another hit. Howard Johnson has been on base 4 straight times. That's a dangerous area, first base for the Pirates.
Van Slyke getting up slowly. Hojo hits it hard. Van Slyke with a good effort. Now watch Jose Lean react to this ball, and he throws it to Belinda. Just off the end of Van Slyke's glove, but boy, Jose Lean is everywhere. Johnson easily, however, beats it at first.
Kevin McReynolds, a 2-run homer back in the 4th inning to put the Mets on the board. It's 5-0 New York. Trying to go into second place by themselves. No balls, 1 strike to Kevin McReynolds. Pitch out, Billardello. Not in time. Howard Johnson was stolen base number 41 on the season. So even on the pitch out, Billardello's throw was high, and Johnson was stolen base number 41 on the year.
Hojo just gets his hand in on the bag ahead of the throw. Lean has to come down with it, and that allows Johnson to be safe at second.
So Johnson at second, nobody out, and the count 1 ball 1 strike to Kevin McReynolds. Look at that unusual way Belinda comes set. Tapper right side. So Lean throws out McReynolds, and on the play Johnson goes to third, and Tim Tuffle coming up. And that'll bring the Pirate infield in.
Here's the Nissan National League scoreboard. Chicago leading St. Louis 2-0 in the 5th inning. So if St. Louis loses and the Mets win, New York will be in second place all alone. Philadelphia leads Montreal 5-3 in the 8th. Houston, Cincinnati, no score in the 7th. Rain delayed again in Atlanta. Doubleheader scheduled with the Dodgers and San Francisco at San Diego later.
Tim Tuffle takes a fastball low. Tuesday night, Oakland. The Oakland A's hosting the Toronto Blue Jays, and then on Wednesday at Wrigley Field, the first postseason night game ever at Wrigley Field. Be the Giants and the Cubs. Ground ball right side and through, and Howard Johnson has just scored his 104th run of the year, and that ties him with Will Clark of the San Francisco Giants for the lead in the National League.
Right fielder.
Tuffle picking up his 15th RBI of the year. Mets now leading 6-0. The drawn in infield giving him a bigger hole to shoot for, as Lean probably would have been able to cut that ball off, but probably still would not have been able to get Johnson at home. So Hojo just being able to add to those impressive numbers on the final day of the season.
RBI number 15 on the year for Tuffle as Mark Carrion takes strike one. Make that ball one. 6-0 now. Mets on top. Good day for Carrion. One and one. That, by the way, the second run scored off John Belinda, or Stan Belinda. See, it was a Freudian slip. I was thinking of the movie Johnny Belinda.
Yeah.
Who starred in that? Let's
Jane
see.
Wyman.
Ball and 2 strikes to Mark Carrion.
I think it was Alice Faye Ray, Aldo Ray, and Oink the Wonder Pig. But I'm not sure.
This is the time for a matinee movie. Matinee movie man. Gets by Billardello as Tuffle waltzes to second. See how that scored a wild pitch or a pass ball. 2-2 to Carrion.
Been a tough day for Billardello. Now Ralph's turn to read the paper. Just had to put it down, though. He was interrupted. I don't see how they've scored that. I think it might be a wild pitch, as it was way outside, and it is a wild pitch.
The last regular season game of this decade for the Mets. And for all of the teams in both leagues today.
And this game might be over by the end of the decade. At the pace it's going.
Stan Belinda on the mound. 2-2 to Mark Carrion. The slider misses. 3-2.
Belinda comes set, as you pointed out, Timmy, a little bit like the style that Doc Gooden was employing, which he has now abandoned. Not quite as high.
Carrion down on strikes. That's the 3rd strikeout for Belinda, and that'll bring up Phil Lombardi.
Belinda comes set with the ball and his glove under his chin with a runner on base.
Wasn't Barbara Stanwyck the heroine in Johnny Belinda?
I believe. Let me think about that now. You got me going.
That's my intention. The slider is outside. A ball and no strikes.
Barbara Stanwyck.
To Phil Lombardi. Seems like it was somebody like James Cagney in a rare cowboy role. This one looped into center, and it's off the glove of Lean, and Phil Lombardi has his 2nd hit of the ball game, and the Mets now lead it 7-0. RBI number 3 for Lombardi.
Phil, this blooper into short center field. Lean, the only one who had a chance for it, and it obviously would have been a very difficult backhanded play. Jay Bell going for it. Lean appeared to touch the ball, just grazing his glove, and Billy Hatcher decides not to throw home, but to run the ball into second to keep Lombardi at first.
Shortstop Kevin Elster.
That is the 10th hit for the Mets on the afternoon, and they lead 7-0. Kevin Elster now. Mets trying to sweep the Pirates and go into 2nd place to end the season. Left field, Barry Bonds for the third out. The Mets score a couple of runs on 3 hits, a strand a runner. It's only 2 outs recorded on the ground today by Fernandez. And when that happens, you know he's got good stuff. 1 out here in the 7th, 7-0 New York, and Jeff King the batter. Well, Jay Horowitz has solved our problem. He says that the male star in Johnny Belinda was none other than Zelmo Beatty.
I should have known that. Jay's on a Zelmo Beatty kick.
Now, there was a guy who rode tall in the saddle.
Well, you're not kidding. With or without a saddle.
Fastball is high, ball 1. Oh, Jay, what a beauty. One and 1 to Jeff King. King has walked and grounded into a double play. A rare double play. You rarely see a hitter ground into a double play when Fernandez is pitching. And you more rarely see it started by Fernandez. You don't see a lot of ground balls back to him.
No. No, Sid made a good play on the ball, too. It ended the 4th inning, a 1-6-3 double play.
Outside, ball 3. 3 balls and a strike to King. Three and 2.
He had a 3-1 cut at that pitch, I'll tell you. He was going to hammer it. And that's the way to do it. Why not?
Tapped foul, 3 and 2.
In addition to your terrific invitation to the White House tomorrow, you're going to do a little traveling this winter. Right? You and Ann are going to cross the seas.
Usually take a trip after the season. Still 3 and 2 to King. You'll be busy with your football program, and in the Mets week in late January and early February.
Yeah, I'll be traveling too, but it won't be a lengthy trip. It'll be a whole lot of little short ones.
You'll be going across the seas too. California, Colorado.
That's right. Crossing those seas.
Chicago.
There you go. Yeah.
Three and 2.
I told you it was Jane Wyman, Johnny Belinda. You were thinking of Jan Sterling, probably. Jane Wyman.
I was not thinking of Charles Bickford, I'll tell you that.
No, they look nothing alike.
Lou Ayres and
big names. Agnes Moorehead.
For our crack staff in the truck.
They're right on top of it. Who was the guy? Not Charles Bickford. Who was the other male?
Lou Ayres.
Lou Ayres. Wasn't there another?
On a game that Sid Fernandez is pitching. He's having his own ticker tape parade.
John Miller celebrating.
John Mitchell?
John Mitchell.
Yeah, all right.
John Mitchell celebrating the... Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Where are the convertibles?
You know, that's funny because he's ordinarily such a very shy, quiet guy. Mitch never says more than 2 words.
Strike 1 to Leaned with King at first. 1 out, 7-0 New York.
Someday we'll just have to put a camera in the bullpen and just record everything that happens.
Not everything.
Well, we can record everything. We can't show everything.
1 and 1 to Jose Leaned. I remember the last day in the bullpen in 1967. We had clinched it. We were playing bridge in the bullpen. We had a box, and we were sitting on 4 boxes and had a towel over the box, a couple of decks of cards, played bridge the whole game. I mean, we had clinched the thing. We were going to Boston on that Wednesday.
Well, I mean, why not? I mean, it makes more sense to me than the Rosenbag game that was going on out there.
Ball and 2 strikes to Lind. In the old Philadelphia ballpark, Connie Mack Stadium, is a very difficult park in which to see, and I think Randy Myers is undoing a baseball now. The literal translation of pulling the string, I guess.
Working on his
something he rarely does.
Yes, he's working on his changeup.
1-2 to Lind. Fly ball right center, hit fairly well. Back is Carry On, and it's Miller who makes the play. King retreats to first, and the batter will be Dan Billardello. But anyway, guys used to order hoagies back there in the early innings to have them digested by the time they went in there, especially the short relievers.
Terry Forster, when he was with Atlanta, once had pizza delivered to the bullpen.
Joe Horner called me from the bullpen in Kansas City once.
Where
he
were
got
you,
the
home?
outside. No, I was in the Philadelphia Phillies locker room. He called long distance, and these phones were just supposed to go from the dugout to the bullpen. I said, Joe, I thought you guys had a day game today. He said, we do. I'm in the bullpen here in Kansas City. So we chatted for 10 minutes.
And they tried to call down to tell him to get ready. They couldn't get through.
Well, it was
line
the middle
busy.
innings. He knew. He had the bullpen coach alert him should he have been gotten up. It's 2 balls and no strikes to Billardello, who's 0 for 2. 7-0. Mets on top. Sid Fernandez working on a 2-hitter. There's a strike. 2 balls and a strike. Howard Johnson, and a tip of the hat to you, my friend. What a year. (101 RBIs, 104 runs scored, 36 home runs. 2-2 to Billardello. Hojo can go back starting tomorrow, rooting for those Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
No, he's rooting for him today, I'll tell you. He wants to know what's going on. He's probably checking out when he comes in the dugout between innings, since I think that Tampa Bay game has started. He is a huge Buccaneer fan. But they lost today, we were just informed.
And Billardello loses about 7-0 lead. Good to see our old pal Junior Ortiz, who says that in this ballpark he doesn't even need the name on his back. The big 0 should tell people that JJ is behind the plate. He is a beauty.
When he changed his number to 0, he was adamant about the fact that it had nothing to do with the name Ortiz. It obviously does, and that's surprise guests on Kiner's Corner following the game.
A surprise for everybody but us, because we're the guests. Some surprise.
And fortunately, they told us about it about a week in advance. Give us enough time to prepare for this appearance. But all 3 of us will be discussing the season and I guess the upcoming playoffs and whatever the heck Ralph wants to talk about. Kiner's Corner right after the game. Mark Carry-On takes a breaking ball low. Mark 2 for 4. Scored 2 runs. Stole a base. Finishing with a flurry, an 8-game hitting streak, over which he's hit close to 500. And he drives this one foul for strike 1, 1-1. lofted to left. Barry Bonds hardly has to move, pounding the glove a couple of times. And it's out number 1. Tuffle remaining at first, and the batter will be Phil Lombardi. Lombardi's had a good day, 2 for 3 plus a walk. He's driven in a run. Strike call. The Mets with 13 base hits, a baker's dozen. Breaking ball inside. 1-1. They don't do that anymore, though, do they? Baker's dozen. You ever been somewhere where they give you an extra?
No, today a baker's dozen is they give me 11 donuts. So they take one away.
I don't buy donuts because I can't eat that stuff.
Well, I don't either, but I'm keeping in line with the story. I just never let the facts get in the way of a good story.
That's nice pants.
Long winter for the Pirate mascot.
Dancing to the beat of his own drum. There is no music in the stadium. Ground ball, fair ball behind third, long throw for King, but he gets them till this last month of the season or so, in which he's started to play third. Kevin Elster with a swing and a miss at the off-speed pitch, 0-1. Kevin trying to join in the hit parade here. He's 0 for 4. Good breaking ball, 0-2.
Only met without a hit today, Kevin Elster. But Kevin has really responded in the second half of the season. He has had a terrific second half when his comments urged Davey Johnson to play him more down in Atlanta. Controversial comments. He knew what he was talking about. And he really fought for the chance to play more. Sometimes that backfires on an organization, a team, and a player. But it didn't this time.
Kevin's been able to go out and back it up, and he's driven in 55 runs this year, the bulk of those, of course, in the second half of the season. High and away again, 2-2. And that is a new Mets club record for RBIs by a shortstop in a season. Grounded to third again. King with a little easier play. This time a high throw, but the tennis pitches, and Jeff King will lead it off in the bottom of the ninth for the Pirates. Mets leading 7-2 in the final game of the decade. Taking a decade to play this game. And we certainly want to thank all of you for watching our telecast this year, and all the people who have made it possible. Not only the crew we have, a wonderful crew at Shea, and all the crews around the league that we work with, and the people behind the scenes, but certainly our sponsors who make it all possible. Down low. And all those sponsors who bring you Mets baseball here on Channel 9 year after year. Low again. Three and one to Jeff King. And he hits one high into left center field. Plenty of time for Melo to get over there, and one out. They might have to change that pad, though. It may be worn out. Good line. inside the lean to 1-1.
Well, I was obviously being facetious, but I would imagine that there will be changes made. There's speculation of that, and we have talked about it a lot. The expectations of this team this year a little more disappointing, or much more disappointing in some respects than in other years.
And I think the quality of play is probably the main thing, not other circumstances that may have come into play in other years. As Lean strikes out, 2 outs here in the bottom of the 9th. First strikeout for Machado. And there's a face that may or may not be on the Mets bench. Davy Johnson.
For the Pirates,
Albert Hall will be the pinch hitter. Batting for Reed. Hall hitting 156. 2 out, nobody on, bottom of the 9th, and the Mets leading 7-2. Strike 1. Machado, although not in line for a save, trying to close it out for Sid Fernandez, who pitched an 8-strong inning performance, giving up just 4 hits and 2 runs, striking out 7. A looper, and Jeffries can't get to it. Benny batting for Junior Ortiz. Just outside. Ball.
First catcher to do so since Mike Squires did it back in the early 80s.
Another ball in almost the same place, and it's off Jeffries' glove. A catchable ball that'll probably be scored in error.
It's here in the 9th inning, 2 out, nobody on.
Barry talking to first base coach Tommy Sant with his first hit of the day, and Jay Bell, who's 2 for 4 with a single, a double, and a run of the year. Diners corner. We get all the decade stories in now. In December, you get all those news stories about the retrospective of the decade. All that kind of stuff. Line down the right field line. One and 2. A tapper. Elster to first in time as Jay Bell face first into the back. Still lying. May have hurt himself a little bit, but he gave it everything he had. But the game and the season for both the Mets and the Pirates are over. Davy Johnson, who may have just managed his last game with the New York Mets, and the Mets winning it 7-3, sweeping the Pirates. Perhaps the most important thing of this series is the fact that the Mets do finish second, as at last report the Cardinals were losing their game.